អង្គុយចុះ
Please be seated. The court is now back in session. We will now give the floor to Kilsampon's defense to put question to this witness. Correction. We now give the floor to the international lead co-lawyer for civil parties. You may proceed.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I have a few questions to ask, so I will not hold up the chamber for too long. Good afternoon, witness. I wish to put to you a few questions, which are questions that just follow each of the topics that were discussed until now, either by the prosecutors, either by my colleague from the civil parties. So these are questions, these are basically follow-up questions on each topic. First of all, I'd like to return to your trip in 13 countries in 1974 with Mr. Yengsari and Kyo Sampon. You said that you were part of the artistic ensemble and that you were singing. So before or after singing, did Yengsari make speeches for the ambassadors or for the people who were attending the performances in 1974?
Yes. At every country, he would make a speech.
And do you remember the topics of each one of these speeches and each country you visited?
No, I cannot recall that.
And did Mr. Kyo Sampon also make speeches in each country or in certain countries?
Yes, he did make a speech.
Je vous remercie.
Thank you. Now I would like to revisit your arrival in Phnom Penh in May 1975. Did you arrive in Phnom Penh by road?
We flew from Vietnam to the South Vietnam, and then we was on a vehicle, and then we took a boat by the river to Phnom Penh.
Je vous remercie. Est-ce que...
Thank you. Question. When you were on the territory of Cambodia, as you were going to Phnom Penh, did you come across people leaving the towns, particularly Phnom Penh?
No, I did not see them. They had already left.
Merci.
Thank you. Question. You told my colleague Lord Chonti a while ago that regarding the evacuation of Phnom Penh, everyone was aware of that. that the leaders had told you so. Did they give you reasons for the evacuation when they spoke to you about it?
I cannot recall that.
Est-ce que
Question. When they told you that Phnom Penh had been evacuated, did they talk to you about the new people, the 17 April people? Did you hear them mention those words?
Yes, I heard about that.
et que vous disait-on?
Question. And what did they tell you when those words were uttered?
I do not know the appropriate answers to this question.
Est-ce qu'on vous a expliqué ce
Question. Did they explain to you what they meant by new people?
No, I did not know about that.
Ce matin, vous
Question. This morning, you stated that you were of a pure and clean social class. Is there any difference between your class, which was pure and clean, and new people?
I did not really understand that well regarding the class status. I was told that the poor peasants class was the pure and clean class.
Merci.
Thank you. I would like us to backtrack a little and talk about your marriage with Lynn. The prosecutor broached that subject this morning and stated that it was Anka, and you stated that it was Anka who arranged your marriage. Was there any particular policy as far as marriages were concerned?
The word Angka refers to the leadership. The marriage was organized by them. And usually they were known as Angka.
Je vous remercie.
Thank you. I have a follow-up question on your marriage and perhaps on other marriages you may have attended. Were the Anka marriages organized by the leadership similar to marriages that were organized prior to the period of democratic Cambodia? That is, marriages involving ceremonies with your families, specific clothing, and religious rituals, or was it different?
At that time it was different. During the time that I got married, we wore the typical black clothes, and there are only a few attendants. There was one leader and a few numbers of the members.
Est-ce qu'il y avait des rites religieux?
Question. During the period of democratic Kampuchea, when marriages were organized, were there any religious rituals?
No, there was no religious celebration or ceremony. We just held hand and then we made our commitment to work hard. That was all.
Je vais passer à un autre sujet.
I will move to another line of questioning. I would like to talk about the period when you were at K8. You stated that you went to live at K8 at your husband's request. You further stated that you stopped working in order to take care of your child. That is what you stated this morning. Was that the case with all women at K8? Were they able to stop working in order to take care of their children?
No, that was not the general principle. It happened to me because I got sick.
Est-ce que vous saviez?
Question. Did you know at the time what happened in the case of other women in Cambodia when they had children and had to stop working?
President, witness, please wait. Defense counsel, you may proceed.
I think your instruction this morning was quite clear. The witness is permitted to testify about her own particular knowledge, that is, her own particular experience as to alleged criminal activity or alleged activity that may have occurred during the DK period. But these general questions as to marriage and childcare as they relate to people other than this witness, we would submit that those are irrelevant and should not be allowed. Thank you.
Puis-je répondre, Monsieur le Président?
May I respond, Mr. President? I believe my question is specific. It deals with what this woman could have known. Her husband was a cadre at the time, so she's in a position to know what happened regarding these other structures and the structures in which she was living. So if we are interested in other structures, we should also be interested in what happened in those structures and what happened to those who lived in there. And it is therefore important for us to know how people lived in different facilities. That is why I am asking the witness to tell us what happened in venues or structures other than those in which she lived. And that is why I believe my question is relevant.
The chamber also noticed that the question asked is of least relevancy to the facts alleged against the accused. However, the witness can't respond to this question if it is in her knowledge. Witness, at my place, those who had children, they were allowed to stay, and if those who were sick or got pregnant, they were also allowed to stay. But I only knew about my place, and I could not speak for other places.
Je vous remercie. Monsieur le Président.
Thank you. Mr. President, may I request your leave to read an excerpt of a document E3/1657, and the ERN in French is 00813503, and in Khmer it is 00521307. It is a very short excerpt, and it is a document I would like to use. Am I authorized to read this excerpt?
Yes, you may proceed.
Je vous remercie.
Thank you.
Objection? I just had a quick look at the interface, and I didn't notice that document on the interface. I'll stand corrected if it's there.
President, the international lead co-lawyer for civil party, you may proceed.
Oui, ce document.
Yes, the document is on the interface. May I point out that we placed it on the interface this morning at 8 a.m. because the person authorized to have access to the interface was not present yesterday. And this person is a colleague of Mr. Pan, who is a Cambodian who was not present yesterday. This document was placed on the interface this morning. I used the document a few weeks ago during proceedings.
President, yes, you may proceed.
Donc, ce que je vais lire est un court extrait.
So what I am about to read is a short excerpt of a statement given by a civil party. And this is what she states. Still, in 1975, I was forced to marry, and later I was pregnant with my first daughter. 1 week after I delivered the baby, I was forced to go and transplant rice, even though I was not strong enough to do so. That notwithstanding, I was forced to do so. And when I asked for leave, I was told I was only pretending to be sick to avoid working. Witness, regarding women at K8 and K3, did you hear statements like the one I have just referred to?
No, I did not hear of such a statement. Because at K8, such people would be allowed to rest.
Je vous remercie. Je voudrais.
Thank you. Let me go into the last line of questioning relating to the questions put to you by your husband, Lin, following the disappearance of several persons. In your statement to the investigating judges, E3/4 43, ERN in French 00402992, ERN in English 003666160, and the ERN in Khmer is 00357221. And this is what you state. At the time, I was always afraid. Madam, can you explain to us what you were always afraid of?
At that time, I heard these people or that people was taken away. And personally, after the arrest of Sao, I was afraid, although I myself did not do anything wrong. But because he questioned me on a number of occasions, so I was afraid that I would be taken away.
Tout à l'heure, madame, en effet.
Madam, indeed, a while ago when the prosecutor asked you to state why you told the SOAS investigators that you would have died if you had been taken, this is the answer you gave, and I quote, "I said so because I had heard that people had been led away to 2 places where rice was being grown." End of quote. Now, madam, can you explain to us why you thought you would be dead if you had been taken to those places where the sole activity was rice cultivation?
It is my understanding that after people were sent there, a while later they would be executed. So I was afraid that if people were sent there, they would be killed.
Vous avez compris que
You understood that those who were led to that place were subsequently executed. How did you know that, witness?
I did not know for sure, but I heard people whispering to one another about that. But I did not know where the news came from.
vous avez entendu les gens murmurer.
You heard people whispering that those who were taken away were subsequently executed. Were the other persons in your entourage always afraid as well?
I could not read into their mind. I only knew about my own feeling.
Je vous remercie, madame, de nous avoir expliqué.
Thank you, madam, for having somewhat explained to us why you were always afraid. I have no further questions for you.
President, thank you. The floor is now given to Nunji's defense to put questions to this witness before the other 2 defense team.
សូមអរគុណលោកប្រធាន
Kung Som-on, thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Your Honors. Good afternoon, Madam Witness. My name is Kung Som-on, Defense Counsel for Kieu Sampon, and I have some questions for you. Allow me to ask you about your education. This morning, you stated that you studied grade 3. How many years did you attend school? Response. Grade 3 back then was known as grade 10. So we started from grade 12 and then we moved downward to grade 10. So I was at school for 3 years. Question. So it means you only attended school for 3 years. Is that correct? Please respond as your microphone was off when you spoke. Witness. Yes, I studied for 3 years. I was not at grade 3. Thank you. Question regarding the reason for you to go to the forest prior to 1975. You spoke of the reason of being afraid of being arrested if you did not go to the forest. Can you tell us the reason that made you afraid so that you ran into the forest in 1968? Response. The reason that I was afraid because my elder sibling went into the forest and the lunar soldiers caused a trouble for us back home. And I and my elder sisters were afraid, so we ran into the forest as well. Question. What did they actually do toward you or your family members back then? Response. They did not really do any actual thing or act, but we were afraid. Thank you. Question. This morning you stated before this chamber that K8 was subordinate to 870. My question is the following. How did you know that K8 was under 870? Response. I knew that the K office was under the leadership of 870. I mean all K offices were under 870. Question. Did you learn this by yourself or did somebody tell you or did you learn it through your work or did you learn it from someone else outside your work? Response. I learned of it during the work meetings. Question. What was actually the meeting known as? Response. It was a group meeting to assess the work on a daily basis. Question. Can you tell us who was the chairman of K8? Response. I did not know the overall in charge. I only know my group supervisor by the name of Lane. Thank you. Question. So the meetings you refer to was your group meetings, not the meeting chaired by the head of K8. Is that correct? Response: yes. Question: who actually spoke about the fact that K8 was under 870? Was it Lion, or was it spoken or uttered by a member of the group? Response: everyone in the group knew about that, about K8. Questioned: based on your statement, it means that it was generally known that K8 was under 870. But did you ever see any organizational structure or any instruction from any of the leaders that K8 was under the supervision of 870? Response: no, at that time I did not know about that. I only knew during the meeting and then I went home. Thank you. Questioned: regarding your record of interview, document A3/43, Khmer EIN 00357223, English 00402994, and English 00365662. You stated that you met with Khieu Samphan for a brief period of time. My question is the following. Besides you met him on that occasion, and as you stated this morning, you went for a visit with Khieu Samphan in 1974. Did you ever meet Mr. Khieu Samphan anywhere else?
Response: no, I didn't. Question: can you please clarify where you met Khieu Samphan on that one occasion? Was it at K1 or K8? Or K3 rather? Response: it was at K3. Question: did you ever see him at K1? Rather, is it correct to say that you never saw him at K1? Response: yes, it is correct. Question: what did Mr. Khieu Samphan do when you saw him at K3? Response: I don't know. I just saw him having meal. Question. Did you have a chance to converse with him at that time? Response. No, I didn't. Question. With regard to the same document, document E3/43, on ERN in Khmer 00357221 through 22, French ERNs 00402994, and French ERN 00365661. And that, when responding to the question, what influence Khieu Samphan had on Lin, you stated that you didn't know, you didn't remember having heard anything, any discussion about the roles of Mr. Khieu Samphan, and you only learned that from Lin that Uncle Pol Pot asked him to do this and do that, not from Khieu Samphan. With regard to this, I would like you to also clarify before the chamber. You did indicate that your husband had never received any orders from Khieu Samphan, but he received direct orders from Pol Pot. Is that what your statement about? Response. Yes, it is. Counsel, thank you. I would like to also ask a question concerning the locations of K1 and K3. Please tell the chamber where K1 is or was located. Response. K1 was located at the riverfront. I don't know the exact location, but it was at the riverfront. Question. So you did not know where exactly it was located, and it is fair to say that you know it was somewhere near the riverfront. Or would you wish to add something else on top of the location of K1, to be more precise? Response. I don't have anything else to add because I only know that K1 was at the riverfront. Question. What about K3? The location that you went and saw Khieu Samphan on one occasion, where was it? Response. K3 was located to the west of the Independence Monument. I did not go out or leave the premises to know the surrounding area. Question. You say that the K3 was to the west of Independence Monument. Could you please be more precise? To which direction? Is it straight to the west? Response. Sorry, I don't even remember the direction very clearly. I do not know whether it was to the west or to the south. Perhaps I don't remember this, but I'm sure that the river was to the east of the Independence Monument. Question. What about Unit 870? Do you know where it was located? Response. No, I don't. Counsel. Thank you. Can you please tell the chamber the secrecy policy during the CPK, if you may? Response. When it comes to keeping secret, it was about keeping things to yourself and not allowing others to know. That's all I could say. Counsel. Thank you. In reality, in your family situation, how effective was this secrets keeping? Response. I don't know how to respond to this. Counsel, thank you anyway. I have no further questions to you, Mrs. Witness, and thank you, Mr. President, and Your Honors. The President, thank you, Counsel. We would like to now proceed to counsels for Mr. Nuon Chia to pose questions to the witness, if they would wish to do so. You may now proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have just a few questions. Good afternoon, Madam Witness. I will certainly finish before the break, just so everyone knows. First of all, Madam Witness, just to clarify, you told us already, but I want it clear for the record. Is it correct that your current home is the U Ampil village, and that's in Malai district? Is that correct? Is that where you live presently?
Response. Yes, it is correct.
Thank you, Madam Witness. And how long have you lived at that location? When did you first move there, if you remember?
Response. I have lived there for 11 years, starting from 1989.
Thank you. And that location, your current residence, that village, is that very close to Cambodia's border with Thailand?
Response. Yes, it is close. It's about 5 to 6 kilometers from the border.
Thank you very much, Madam Witness. Now I'd just like to briefly move on to two areas which may be within your personal knowledge. First of all, this morning, and again this afternoon, you made reference to an individual called Chim. I also note that in your statement to the investigators of the OCIJ, and that's document E3/43, that's your statement. We've been talking about that over the course of today. You also mentioned that name twice in that statement, Chim. Do you recall mentioning that name, Chim?
Response. Yes, I do.
Thank you, Madam Witness. Who is Chim?
Response. Jim belongs to a tribal group, but later on he worked at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs with Uncle Ieng Sari.
Just so I have that very clearly, you're referring to the DK Ministry of Foreign Affairs and not the current Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the current government. Is that correct?
Response. Yes, it is correct. It was during the CPK.
Thank you, Madam Witness. Now again, very briefly, turning to your OCIJ interview, and again that's document E3/43, and I'm looking now at ERN English 00365661, Khmer ERN 00357222, and French ERN 00402993. And if I can just read to you what it says here, you said to the OCIJ, Chiem is currently living at his house opposite the Malai District Hall. Is that the same individual that we're talking about? The man who used to work for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs? The DK Ministry of Foreign Affairs?
Response. Yes, he is the same person.
Thank you. And do you know, does he still live at that house? The one you mentioned in your statement?
Response. Yes, he does.
And does that individual go by any other names that you're aware of?
Response. He also known as P. Kuan, says the witness.
I'm sorry, Madam Witness, I heard P. Kuan. Did you mean P. Puan?
Response. I don't know whether he was P. Kuan or maybe just Kuan, but that's what I've heard.
Thank you. Are you aware that an individual by that name gave testimony in this case?
Response. No, I don't.
And when was the last time you met this individual? Have you seen him recently?
Response. I met him when I paid a visit to his home.
When was that, Madam Witness?
Response. I don't remember the exact date.
Was that in the recent past or the far past? A few months ago, 1 year ago, something like that? If you remember.
Response. I think I met him in 2005 something. I just don't remember, but it's about that year.
That's fine. Thank you, Madam Witness. One more question. If I told you that this individual gave testimony before this chamber, and then publicly renounced that testimony, would you have any idea, based on your knowledge of the situation in your district, why that individual would do such a thing? Don't answer.
The President, witness, could you please hold on? International Co-Prosecutor, you may now proceed. The President, could you please make sure your mic is activated?
Thank you, Mr. President. The practice before this chamber is clear. We should not put questions to a witness that leads this witness to speculate and to reveal what another person might think. I think this is completely inappropriate. It's not the witness's role to make comments on this.
Your Honor, if I think it's highly relevant. The individual that I'm referring to is a public figure in the witness's home area. It's well known that that individual came into court, gave testimony, was clearly influenced by a statement of Hornem Hong, recanted his testimony. I'm simply trying to explore whether or not this witness, based on her current residence, would have any information to provide with respect to that. It does relate, of course, to an application that we filed before the chamber with respect to the testimony of that individual, Pi Puen. So that's simply where I'm going with this line of questioning. If she doesn't know, she doesn't know.
The President, the objection is grounded and therefore sustained. Witness is instructed not to respond to the question by counsel for Mr. Nguyen Chia, in particular the last question.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll move on to my next and final area. Now, Madam Witness, you've just told us that you've lived in your area for some 11 years. Have you lived there continuously for those 11 years?
Response. Yes, I have.
Thank you very much. So, on that note, I would like to ask you about something that very well may be within your sphere of knowledge. And I just note something that my colleague across the stage mentioned earlier today, that we shouldn't fret over words. However, a particular word was used, which I would like to fret over just for a moment, because the meaning of that word is actually quite significant to our position, to our defense. You were asked earlier today if you were familiar with something called K5, and you replied that you were not. Now, it is my estimation that the prosecutor was referring to a DK institution, K5. Are you familiar with another K5 or a Ka-Prum? Something having to do with landmines and possibly many deaths from malaria, which may have occurred in your area in the 1980s. Are you familiar with that in any respect?
Monsieur le Président.
The President, witness, could you please hold on? And International Court Prosecutor, you may now proceed.
I believe that the defense lawyer knows very well that the questions relating to demographics in Malay area have already been rejected by the chamber. There were several attempts to ask questions about this, and I don't think that this is relevant to the closing order that we are examining now.
Thank you. If I may just respond briefly, I'm sure the chamber is also well aware that we have an obligation to put our case, that is our defense case, through each and every witness that we deem that may be possible with. Obviously, this witness comes from an area where many people died during the K5 project. I think she's probably in the best position of anyone who's been before the chamber yet to tell us a little bit about that. And for the obvious reasons, or for the reasons that I've told the chamber several times, it's highly relevant. It's relevant to the death toll of DK, because the assessments that were made, as we've said, were made after tens of thousands of people died during the K5 operation. And that's well known in this country. That's a well-known fact. So if this witness could shed some light on that, then my position is, our position is, it's highly relevant. And I, for one, would be interested to hear what she has to say. Again, if she doesn't know, then she doesn't know, and there's nothing I could do about that.
The President, the objection is well grounded. The question was irrelevant to the facts before us. The objection, therefore, sustained. Witness is now instructed not to respond to that question either.
Thank you, Mr. President. Then there's nothing left for me to do but thank the witness. Thank you, Madam Witness. I appreciate your taking the time to answer some of my questions. And that's all I have for today. Thank you.
The President, thank you, Counsel. We would now proceed to the counsels for Mr. Ieng Sari. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Your Honors, and good afternoon to everyone in and around the courtroom, and good afternoon, Madam. Sticking with the statement that you gave to the Office of the Core Investigative Judges, and I'm referring to E3/43, I want to continue to ask you a few questions about Chiam. Now, do you recall giving this statement to the investigators?
Response. Yes, I do.
Thank you. Now, if we look at the first page of this document, it says that the statement was taken on the 18th day of July, 2009, at 1300 hours. That is 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And it concluded around 15:45 or 3:45 that day. But, Madam, isn't it a fact that you were questioned in the morning and you provided the investigators information in the morning before being tape recorded that afternoon?
Response: Yes, it is correct.
In fact, if we listen to your tape, listen to the taped interview at approximately 50.04 on the tape to 50.23 on the tape, you are asked to provide names of individuals that would have worked with your husband, and you are told the names. Auntie told me this morning, you told us a lot this morning. So in the morning, before being tape recorded, you provided names of individuals that had worked with your husband. Is that right?
Response: No, it isn't, because I didn't provide names before the recording. I didn't give any names.
Madam, have you listened to the recording recently to hear your voice and to hear the investigators where they ask you, and let me quote what it says. This is an unofficial translation. Investigator, and the investigator who's asking the questions is Che Jandaravan, someone who we've seen here, we've seen his name before. He says, investigator, but who used to work with him as you described this morning? Now I'm asking you, Auntie, can you describe who worked with Uncle Lin from the past until now, who may live or die? And the investigator again asks you, what are the names? Auntie told me this morning. You told me a lot this morning. So off tape, you told them a lot in the morning. Is that a fact?
Yes, that is correct. I could recall a few more names back then.
Thank you. Now, if we look at the page of the summary of your interview that was referred to earlier by my colleague, and I'm referring to Khmer 00397222, French 00402943 to 994. In English, it's 00365661. You're asked a question: who worked under Lin? Where are they living now? And then you give several names, and then you say, Chiem is currently living at his house opposite the Malay District Court. Do you recall saying that to the investigators?
Yes, I recalled it.
Now, when we listen to the tape, in fact, this is what you tell the investigators. You say that Chiem worked as a bodyguard during the 3-year regime. Is that your recollection, that Chiem worked with your husband, Lin, as a bodyguard during that 3-year period?
I can recall some that initially when he came to Phnom Penh, he worked with my husband. But later on, he was moved to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
All right. And then you said at some other point that Chiem worked with Lynn's group, with your husband's group, was that during the period when he had moved to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs? Was Chiem working with your husband's group?
Yes, that is correct.
And that would have been the period when your husband took over from Pong? When Pong disappeared?
Yes, that is correct.
Do you know whether your husband gave him orders or directions?
From my recollection, he did not.
All right. Now you say from your recollection, were you in a position to know whether your husband at the time was giving Chiem orders, considering everything that you told us today, including that a husband and a wife were not to know what each other did?
I did not know about that.
All right. And lastly, you were asked a question about when was the last time you saw Chiem, and you said 2005. Are you sure that you didn't see him most recently, since you both live in the same area?
No, I had not seen him since.
And when you told us that you went to his house, that would have been in 2005 and not recently.
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you very much, madam. I appreciate you coming here to give your evidence. I would like to thank you and wish you safe travels and the best of luck. Thank you very much. That concludes my examination, Your Honors. Thank you.
President, Madam Namsaim, the hearing of your testimony has come to a conclusion. You are now excused, so you can return to your residence or anywhere you wish. The Chamber is grateful of your time to testify before us for this one-day proceeding with patience and to the best of your knowledge. Your testimony can contribute to ascertaining the truth. We wish you all the best of luck and bon voyage. Court officer, In cooperation with the Visu, please arrange for her travel to return to her residence. The hearing today has come to a conclusion, and as we schedule this witness, but we concluded her testimony earlier than expected, we will adjourn the hearing today and will resume on Monday, the 1st of October 2012, starting from 9 a.m. We will hear the testimony of the witness TCW 320, starting first by the prosecution. And for tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, there will be no hearing, as the chamber is facing the issues of the absence of the accused Ieng Sari, who is being treated at the hospital, and the witnesses to be called could not make themselves available as a reserve witness after this current witness. Also, at present, the chamber and all the parties have other issues to resolve. We have a number of issues that we need to discuss and find a solution. And of course, parties are all busy in their preparation for the documents to be submitted for the proceeding in case 002/02 and other relevant documents in relation to the new fact to be heard in the near future. Security guards, you are instructed to take the two accused back to the detention facility and have them return on the Monday, the 1st October 2012, before 9 a.m. The hearing is now adjourned.